Hi, everyone. We're opening late tonight from some technical difficulties. This is the Thursday, June 18th Board of Finance meeting, regular meeting. And we will start off with calling the meeting to order. And I move to seat Lisa for Christina Majos, who can't be with us tonight.
Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you. Welcome, Lisa. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna dispense with any comments from the chair too, but let's do the approval of minutes. These are the minutes for the June 4th meeting in your packet, which is a pretty slim packet. Anyone want to move to approve the minutes?
I'll move that we approve the minutes of June 4th, 2026. Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Any discussion about the minutes? Any changes? Hearing none. All in favor of approving the minutes of June 4th? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, that passed unanimously. All right. And I think we're going to either hold or dispense with old business. And actually it's got the wrong date in there. That was from the last time. But if there were any thoughts that the board has, we could come back to that. But I kind of like to go ahead and get to the main program of our guests doing the telling us about the 24-25 audit. I've got that right, don't I?
You do.
It seems so. The halcyon days of fiscal year 25. So I'd like to introduce Mike Van Deventer. You've been doing our audits for how long, or representing?
Several years. I've been with the firm since 2013. So yeah, it's been quite a few years.
And it's Mahoney Saville. Everybody I think knows that. And so I'm gonna who's your accomplice here?
Carolina.
Carolina.
Manager.
Thank you.
Yep. So even though I've been in different roles on the audit over the years, at one point in time I was a manager, then transitioned into the partner role, and then we've had multiple managers that have worked on the engagement over the years as well. And so Carolina's been on it for the last several years as the manager. So.
You know what, after I asked you, I'm sorry, I skipped over present to speak. There may be someone online.
Sure, go ahead.
No one in the room, but I'm sorry, folks. Present to speak is open. Is there anyone online who would like to make a comment to the Board of Finance? Give them a minute. Anyone want to make a comment? Just unmute yourself if you do, if you're having trouble finding the raised hand.
You two could speak if you'd like. Just the first.
Yeah, okay. Well,
Take it.
there'll be an opportunity at the end. Okay, now we can go back to it. Thank you.
All right. Well, again, thank you very much. Again, my name is Mike Van Deventer, and I'm a partner at Mahoney Saville. Ultimately responsible for overseeing the town's audit and issuing the reports on behalf of the firm. Again, joining me is Carolina. She's a manager at the firm, really responsible for the day-to-day execution of our audit procedures. So I know this presentation is a little bit later than the presentations that have been done in the past. I do want to make note that when we issue the audit, all of the reports that are issued include all of our communications. So although I think it's important for us to make the communications directly to the board, you can ultimately get all that information through the reports that are issued. So hopefully you all received the reports that were issued. Again, I'm not going to go through those in detail. I'll go over my presentation that I have.
Okay.
Really cover the overall scope of work, the the reports that were issued. I'll make our required communications, and again, happy to answer any questions that you may have. So if we can, I guess we're going to hand those out first before I have you jump. That's okay.
Thank you. Thanks.
So if you can flip to the second slide. As far as the scope of work, no changes from what's been done in prior years. So we did an audit of the town's financial statements. We performed that audit in accordance with both the auditing standards issued by the AICPA, as well as the government auditing standards issued by the Government Accountability Office. In addition, based on the level of funding that was received and expended by the town, we did perform both federal and state single audits. And then we also perform an agreed upon procedures engagement on the end of school year reports that are filed by the school district with the Department of Education. To the next slide, in addition to those test services where we're issuing a report, we do provide some non-audit services for the town. So we do assist in the preparation of the financial statements, the schedule of federal awards, the schedule of state financial assistance, and the related notes. We also assist in converting the town's governmental fund financial statements to the government-wide financial statements. In order for our firm to be able to perform those services and remain independent of the town, which we're required to be under our auditing standards, management is required to oversee and accept responsibility for all of the non-audit services. Again, Donna, as the business manager, ultimately accepted responsibility for those services. Next slide. We do issue a number of reports. Again, the main report is the report on the financial statements. We did issue unmodified clean opinions on the financial statements. So again, we express an unmodified opinion when we've concluded that the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America, and that's as established by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. I do like to point out, if you do read our opinion, if you're familiar with the auditing standards, our opinion does provide reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free from a material misstatement, whether due to error or fraud. Again, we're not providing absolute assurance. We're not testing every transaction, and therefore we cannot provide absolute assurance. But again, reasonable assurance is the highest level of assurance that you can get in a audit or in a test service. In addition to the report on the financial statements, we do issue a report on compliance and on internal control over financial reporting. Again, this report is required by the government auditing standards. In this report, we don't actually express an opinion on the town's compliance with laws and regulations or on the effectiveness of the town's internal controls. Essentially, during the course of performing the financial statement audit, if we become aware of or identify what we consider to be a material non-compliance with laws and regulations, or a significant deficiency or material weakness in internal controls, we are required to include it in this letter. And again, we did not report any such matters. In connection with the federal single audit, we issue a report on compliance at the federal award level. So in this report, we do actually express an opinion on the town's compliance with its major federal program. For fiscal year 2025, the total federal awards that were expended were just over $1 million. The major program was the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds, also the ARPA funds. We did issue unmodified clean opinions on compliance over the use of those funds, and we did not report any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses over compliance. We issue a similar report in connection with the state single audit, except it relates to the major state financial assistance programs. For fiscal year 2025, the total state financial assistance that was expended was approximately $4.4 million. Of that, a portion is considered non-exempt and not subject to our testing. The major programs for the town was the Town Aid Road Grant and the Small Town Economics Assistance Program. Again, we did issue unmodified clean opinions on compliance, and we did not report any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in the grant. And again, the primary compliance requirements for all of the grants that were tested were allowable costs. So again, we're making sure that you're charging appropriate costs to the grant. All right, the next section goes over your financial highlights. This slide goes over your general fund budgetary highlights. Again, your original and your final budget did plan for the use of fund balance in the amount of $900,000 to balance your revenues and expenditures. Your actual budgetary results was a decrease of $534,000. So that did result in an overall favorable budgetary variance for the year of approximately $366,000. So again, you plan to use $900,000 of your fund balance, and you actually only used $533,000. So that's what generated a favorable budgetary variance. Your revenues were about $287,000 more than budgeted. You did have favorable collections on property taxes, conveyance taxes, building permits, and then interest that were earned on short-term investments. And then your expenditures were about $78,000 less than budgeted. And again, that's with the Board of Education surplus of about $131,000 being transferred to the non-lapsing fund. And again, no budgetary instances of non-compliance were identified. Next section goes over your governmental fund financial highlights. So this includes your general fund on a GAAP basis, as well as all of your special revenue and capital project funds. The town did report combined ending fund balances of about $10.3 million. That was an increase of about $1.5 million over the prior year. That fund balance is included in various funds within the town. The general fund had an ending fund balance of about $4.4 million, which was a decrease of about $128,000 from the prior year. Of that amount, $2.2 million was considered unassigned, and that represented about 10.1 or just over 1.2 months of your fiscal year 2026 budgetary expenditure appropriations. Again, that factors in $700,000 that was assigned for use in your fiscal year 2026 budget. The capital project fund had an ending fund balance of about $385,000. That was an increase of about $35,000 from the prior year. Your capital non-recurring fund had an ending fund balance of about $3 million, which was an increase of about $1.3 million from the prior year. And then all of your other funds had an ending fund balance of about $2.5 million. Those funds are either restricted or committed for specific purposes. You have about $801,000 restricted for the Small Cities Grant Housing Fund, primarily in the form of loans receivable. You had about $1 million committed for your fire and ambulance fund, and then about $640,000 that was restricted or committed for other program and purposes. So again, your financial statements do include all of these individual funds, and they are included as supplementary information, so you can look at each of those funds within the financial statements. Next section goes over the government-wide financial highlights. Again, this takes your governmental fund financial statements and converts it to a full accrual basis of accounting. So this captures all of your capital assets as well as your long-term liabilities. From a user perspective, the focus of the government-wide financial statements are really on your unrestricted net position as well as your long-term liabilities. So again, users want to understand your pension liabilities, your long-term debt, and those sorts of things. Overall, the town had a positive unrestricted net position of about $8.2 million. That reflects low levels of long-term bonded debt, and then the status of the town's pension and OPEB liabilities that contribute to the overall positive net position. So again, a lot of municipalities have significantly unfunded pension deficits, and so a lot of times those liabilities are in excess of the town's reserves, and that results in a deficit in the overall position of the town. In terms of the net pension liability, you do have a net pension asset as of June 30th, 2025 of approximately $50,000. So again, that plan is fully funded, and that's utilizing a discount rate of about 7%, no change from the prior year. And then you do reflect another post-employment benefit liability. That reflects retiree healthcare benefits for eligible employees. Currently, the town funds that on a pay-as-you-go basis. Again, no significant issues with the town doing that, as that liability really isn't a significant liability for the town. The actuarial determined liability totaled approximately $960,000, and that's utilizing a discount rate of about 5.2%. Again, the discount rate is lower than what you use for your pension plan because you don't have assets that are set aside and invested in the market. And then the next section just goes over our required communications. Again, our communications are really geared towards when we've experienced significant issues with the audit. We have to make certain communications to the board. We did issue a separate governance letter that includes these communications. The first item here talks about our responsibility under the auditing standards. Although we do assist in the preparation of the financial statements, again, the financial statements are the responsibility of the town. And ultimately, it's our responsibility to perform our audit procedures and express our opinion on those statements. In terms of the plan, scope, and timing of the audit, again, no changes in the overall scope of work. A 1-month extension was requested and approved by OPM. And that was really to allow Donna sufficient time to review and approve all the reports. We were substantially complete with our audit work prior to the December 31st deadline. But again, that extra time just allowed us to kind of review and take ownership of the financial statements before we issued them. In terms of significant audit findings, again, there were no new accounting standards that had a significant impact on the town's financial statements. The financial statements do include some significant estimates and judgments. Those consist of estimated useful lives that are assigned to your capital assets, the estimated amount of vacation and sick leave to be used in future year by employees, and then discount rates utilized to determine net pension and OPEB liabilities. Again, we did review those estimates. We did deem them to be reasonable and consistent with industry practice. And again, so no significant issues with those adjustments. I'm happy to report that we had no significant difficulties encountered in performing the audits. We had no uncorrected misstatements. We had no material audit adjustments. We had no disagreements with management. We did obtain a management representation letter. There were no unusual representations that we requested from management. Again, I just give the board the example. If we were testing a transaction and we weren't able to substantiate that transaction via an invoice or something along those lines, and we were relying on the representation from management, we would disclose that to you. And we're not aware of any consultations by management with any other independent accountants. So with that, again, happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Well, glad there are no outstanding issues, but wondered kind of what you would recommend that we might do to sort of up our game in terms of our audit performance, even though there's no glaring problems as far as our day-to-day, because we are in transition with we're in the hiring process for a new business manager. And I thought, because Donna's given us long time service and she's retiring, just wondered if this is a time where you feel comfortable recommending any practices that you maybe think need a,
Yeah, I mean, nothing, obviously comes to mind. Certainly transitions within government can sometimes be difficult. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's a lot of institutional knowledge that Donna had. Governmental accounting in general, I do see a lot of finance directors' positionings open up amongst many municipalities. And again, that position is really an important position within the town from a compliance perspective and an audit prep perspective. So again, just obviously, potentially filling that position with a good candidate would help that process. Again, I think you have your procedures in place. Nothing comes to mind that I would say you have to change.
Questions from the board? Any, areas that you've always kind of wondered about and you'd like to ask about?
Wait until next month.
Yeah, I mean, again, as the auditors for the town, if you do have questions during the year, please, don't hesitate to reach out. Just from a board perspective, we always ask that, the questions flow through the board chair, and then ultimately the business manager as well.
I think from sitting through many audits, I think the feedback is always that the town is run pretty well. and Donna does a good job with the Board of Finance, but from where you sit, do we have too much money sitting in funds unused?
So I would have to analyze that.
Okay.
I'm here, like, I don't know. I mean, that's not something that we necessarily identify.
Right,
But you would have to kind of go through that as well and determine, okay, what is this fund specifically for?
and why don't we?
Can we access these funds, or, are they committed or restricted for a specific purpose? And then again, how do we use those funds in the future for those programs that they are restricted for?
Okay. Thank you.
And again, I'd be happy to take a look at that. I would need to spend a little time kind of actually looking at it.
I mean, I don't think this is directly your oversight area, but one of the things that the Board of Finance has been juggling with in the last couple of years, especially, is the rather small river of revenue we have kind of drying up a little. Where I'm wondering, we have to, when we're doing budgets and we're trying to keep the taxpayer impact low, especially coming off last year, a 6-year reval that captured the housing value explosion during COVID and other things. And the state did its thing with changing the system that it uses for valuing cars, valuing cars. That took quite a bit of revenue out of the system, and everything kind of happened all at once.
Right.
And so we're always struggling on this board with, how much do you cut into what the departments need to just sort of maintain services as they are today, not to start new programs or, expand, although those things may need to be done too. Like right now we have road repairs and road paving that are always an issue. We only went up like 100,000, I think, this year in that $2 million public works budget to address some of that, but they asked for $500,000 because roads are expensive to pave.
Right.
And all the products are going up there.
Yeah.
Thank you. All the elements in the universe. So I'm just kind of wondering, that whole game of how much fund balance do you apply to reduce the tax impact, even though that's a game that, has diminishing returns, which is kind of where we are now.
Right.
So do you have any thoughts about that? Because that's probably the most clear and present hassle for this board to figure out.
And that's, ultimately that's why you would want to have policy, so you kind of operate within that policy framework. The fund balance percentage, again, there are levels that are set by the state. I think they have lower levels, maybe like if you go below 6%, I have to go back and check the statutes. They'll require you to develop a plan or really develop a plan for restoring the fund balance. So there are some numbers that once you go below it, the state will start kind of monitoring the financial condition of the town. In terms of, other than that, if you're doing bonding, there is some impact on the town's rating, depending on the fund balance percentage that you're maintaining. That is a component of your overall rating as well. So again, I think in general, the use of fund balance should really be more for non-recurring type expenditures, capital expenditures, as opposed to using that as a way to balance your budget. Yeah. I mean, I think you guys do a good job with your budget. It's not as if you have significant budgetary surpluses on the expenditure side. So I wouldn't say that you're obviously overtaxing your taxpayers based on your budget.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
You answered my question next month.
Your question for that, are you being coy?
But bonding,
Oh,
we'll have a referendum like
Go
in
ahead.
November
go ahead, bring it up.
regarding the new school building.
Yep.
And then down the road, we're gonna need another fire department too. So that was what I was curious about, is what our bond rating would be if we go for a bond. Especially I think this year, we reduced the fund balance some, instead of reducing the budget. So
Right. And I can't tell you specifically, I mean, you would kind of have to talk with the rating agencies. But when I look at Wellington, in general, I think, the lack of commercial, on the grant list. And then, obviously the lower fund balance percentage, these are all pieces that they'll kind of look in totality to make a determination on the town's rating.
Actually, we're quite a bit down from what we were last year. I mean, one of the things that burned us was using 700
Right.
last year. Can't remember exactly what it is, but I think it's under 300.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and the hard part is, I've seen towns that they've done that where they've used a good amount to kind of balance the budget, reduce the mill rate. And then once that kind of goes away, it's not necessarily the expenditure side that the taxpayers have an issue with. It's just the mill rate.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I think, the recommendation is to not necessarily use fund balance to offset your budget, because at some point in time, it's going to be an issue.
And it
Right.
makes you work less.
Yeah. Yep.
Exactly.
A lot of the voters are, wondering because taxes have gone up because of the revaluing of the homes and everything. They're saying things like, where is all the money going? And I don't think, not everybody understands that principle of, the mill rate goes down, it's down like about 7 or 8 points from where it was before the reval. And we never tax beyond what the operating budget is or the operating capital, for the next year. So, that's a hard thing to get across, because mill rates change so much.
Yep.
I don't know if you have, if we're sort of, it feels very tight when we're looking at some of this, because like, for instance, the school budget this year, we are, it's the biggest budget, of course, as it is in most towns, but we do have, things like an 18% increase in health insurance for town and school employees, all of that. And that's because the superintendent and the first selectman immediately put it out to bid again, and got down, the quote by our current provider was 32.4% year-over-year increase, and it's down to 18 now. So it's better, but it's still 18%.
Right.
And when people are saying, average should not be above the rate of inflation. By the way, is that an outdated concept, or is that a good concept?
I mean, to me, I would call it an outdated concept.
And why would that be?
Just in general, I just think about our business and, what we have to pay and the increases that we have to pay, and information technology and just annual renewals and, those sorts of things. And it, to me, doesn't match necessarily the rate of inflation. And again, government's not immune to that either. You have to deal with inflation as well, so.
And threats are threats, and you have to safeguard.
Right.
Yeah, so. And
So, sometimes the state would come out, that's why the state has, I think they waived the inflation requirement for the municipalities with the budgets, because they know that, that inflation rate cannot be met, just because of the increases in costs.
Who has waived that?
The state of Connecticut.
And as most states do that, do you think?
I'm not sure. Well, some of your funding is tied to meeting, or being below the inflation rate. So again, the fact that they waived it was, they're basically saying with we don't think that you're gonna be
Yeah,
able
To
to
do that.
do that. And we're not gonna cut your funding because of it.
Are there, never mind, I'm going off topic, so I'll just stay on topic. I wanna ask you all kinds of questions.
Well, it's always good to ask if there's anything that we're not touching on that you think is a trend we should be more aware of than you judge we are. Because, I mean, the board is made up of people who are, of course, interested in the finances and health of the town. But not everybody has an MBA or anything. So we're, volunteer elected officials.
Yep, I do think that was a good point that you brought up. Again, I don't know offhand, but, you know, obviously looking at some of your other funds.
Yeah.
And understanding how those, interact with the budget, in terms of funding via transfers or those sorts of things. You know, that's obviously an area that you could look at.
I guess I was gonna ask, and I can put it on point. What is the watchdog ability of the state to put people back into correction? When you say we have to come up with plans to restore if we go off point?
Below
Yep.
6%.
So what is that oversight? I mean, are they, well employed to safeguard, to watch that? Or is it just they say it and they don't?
No, they do have
Okay.
an active board. They have two separate boards.
Okay,
One is more of an advisory board, and then another board is where they will, I think,
Fine.
actually, you know, take on some of the board responsibility.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So it's actually, an oversight.
It is an-
That's
it is
an
an
active
oversight.
oversight. Yeah, that's, okay, thank you.
Yeah, and there are several towns that are currently, you know, dealing with those boards.
Of the 169.
Yep.
That's a good question.
And then do they make recommendations ever to, you know, how to, so that's.
Yeah,
where I'm
certainly
going
the advisory board does.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. And how to be vibrant or return or not be able to return, and here's what we suggest next.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I thought so. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Anything you want to add to this or yeah. Yeah, thanks, Mike. I really appreciate everything
you.
that you bring to this, and
Yep.
it's good to see you annually. I mean, so the finance sees you a little bit more than we do probably.
Yep. So again, I mean, if you do have questions, again, feel free to reach out.
Thank you.
If you want to bounce something off me, again, happy to have that conversation.
Well, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
So
It's a lot of work to audit.
you can stick around if you want to. We're gonna hear from the public on present to speak if they want to say anything. They seem a little quiet tonight. And then we're sort of, I don't know if the board's kind of comfortable with the idea of a quicker meeting after a long, but
Yeah, I'm all over that.
but if there is something, you know, we want to bring up, we can. We should do that before getting down to the final part of the agenda. So is there anything that is on anyone's mind that can't be handled in good and welfare or something? Okay. Yeah, okay. Present to speak. Anyone online want to say anything or some of the things we talked about or the overall season? Okay, Ralph, hi.
Good evening, Ralph Tillis, Village Hill Road. I just want to follow up on the email that I sent to the chair with respect to the posting of minutes.
Oh, I can tell you that. Oh.
You folks,
Go ahead.
you folks may have seen all the minutes, but they're not available to the public for about the last 4 meetings, plus one going back quite a ways. This is not good to not keep those minutes up to date. I think there is a legal requirement as to the time frame in which minutes are supposed to be posted. And I think it's time for this board to catch up a little bit. And that's my only comment. Thanks.
Okay, normally, we don't like have a dialogue, but since you're being pretty specific about it today, it's check, it's done. All of those have been forwarded to the town clerk for posting. So, and it was, like, an issue in the protocol. So, yeah. And those minutes that Russ pointing to, well, there was one outlier on February 19th. And I'm not sure, I'm not sure why that one was, but, and most of them are from 5/7, 5/21, and there are some minutes that are missing in dates, but those meetings were canceled or there was some reason like that. I think one of the ones that isn't in there that I'm not even sure, do you guys remember approving the, town meeting? The annual budget hearing and the Board of Finance meeting afterwards. I'm gonna look back and see if we did, because everything else we approved. That would have been 4/7, 2 meetings on the same night in the old town hall. I don't know if you were
I
there.
wasn't there.
Yeah, I wasn't there. So I'm gonna go through and see which ones we've approved and make sure those are in there. I mean, if they're not, I'll bring them to the next.
It's a lot of work for volunteers.
Yeah.
Right, Val?
It's a lot of stuff. It's,
Steph,
Uh,
if,
so have your hand up.
yes.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, if you would like the dates, we're looking at Board of Finance, February 19, April 7, April 16, May 7, May 21, and June 4. There are no minutes posted online for those dates.
I know what they are, Ralph, but like I said, I went
Just
through,
reiterate.
I went through them myself and looked at which ones didn't make it online, and, I'm not 100% sure why all the reasons are for that, but, that I made, and then I went and dug around and Lisa helped me with what her notes were, and I've already sent them to the town clerks.
So you see them shortly.
Yeah, but you won't see them until Monday, but
That's because we're closed.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay? Yeah, believe me, I know, I memorize the dates myself, so I know which ones they are.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, our bad.
Okay, great.
Thank you for bringing it up, actually. Okay, anything else? Anyone else online? Last call. Kind of a quiet night. Okay, and I think that's it. So no correspondence, but I will be sending you any minutes that have not been approved, and those will carry over for the next. I think it's gonna be the one at the Old Town Hall. That one just sort of got in a different silo because it was on a Tuesday instead of Thursday and all that, But anyway. So any good and welfare or anything else on your minds before we adjourn?
Yeah, nothing.
I think everybody would like to just have a short meeting, which is fine. And thank you very much, you guys. You guys were the stars of the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, meeting adjourned.
We don't have that person second floor.